makes sense.
No.
The ones that I like, don't eat those.
What do you like?
No,
I know you're kidding, but
I've
what do you-
already had 2, maybe 3, counting.
The board members needed to step out for just a second, so we'll give her just a second, then we'll get started. I'm gavel-less, but we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome. We have a pretty full agenda tonight, so let's dive in and see if we can get moving. The first item is the approval of tonight's agenda, so I need a motion to approve the Board of Education agenda. A motion? Second. And a second. Any discussion? The motion is to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That passes. Thank you. The next one, I need a motion to approve the Board of Education meeting minutes from December 7th.
Move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion of those minutes? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That passes. Any opposed? That passes. Thank you. We do have a patron comment tonight, so I have to read through this a little bit. It says that every regularly scheduled board meeting, citizens may make a statement to address the board concerning issues pertaining to the Rockwood School District. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. To address the board, please complete a blue patron card. In this case, somebody used a white card, but that counts. Prior to the start of the board meeting, and give it to a communications department staff member. Citizens will be called to the lectern by the board president to make comments. The board values and appreciates you taking the time to provide your comments. The general practice of the board is not to respond to your comments at this time, except to ask for clarification if needed. If appropriate, the district will provide a written response within a reasonable period of time. Please note that matters related to employee negotiations, legal issues, real estate, personnel, and student matters are reserved for the board discussion during closed session. We ask if a number of people are speaking on the same issue that you please try not to just simply repeat comments from previous speakers. I don't think that'll be an issue because we only have one. Mr. Tom Dunn, would you join us? Welcome.
Evening. Board members, thank you for this opportunity to speak regarding the swimming pool at Eureka High School. I'm certain that I'm not the first resident to express the need for a new pool at EHS, nor will I be the last. As people probably know, EHS was built late 50s, early 60s. Lafayette followed in 1989, Rockwood Summit and Marquette both in 92. EHS pool is 6 lanes wide and 25 meters in length with no timing system. LHS, MHS, and RSHS all have 8 lanes and 25 yards in length with a timing system. For those of the board members whose competitive swimming knowledge is minimal, EHS is the only high school in the state of Missouri that still uses a 25-meter pool. So why does EHS need a new pool? Current pool leaks and needs approximately 7,000 gallons of water a day to be replenished, and I supplied photos that the president has. There's no timing system. That means all swimming competitions at AHS will not count towards state cut times. So that means anytime we have a competition there, the swimmers are swimming just for first, second, third, fourth, et cetera, and the times will not be recognized. There's no balcony seating. Spectators currently have to sit on portable bleachers and walk on wet pool deck, exposing the school to potential liability issues. And the pool is surrounded. The current pool location means that it could only have repairs done. The machinery necessary to do a complete overhaul cannot access the pool due to the football field, school buildings, and gymnasiums. Some other points that I did not bring up were the locker rooms are really in disrepair. The photos that I gave the president for the water levels going down, that's just 2 days worth. So that means that at the shallowest end in a 3-foot pool, it was down to 2 feet. The ideal situation would be to build a new, whether it be 25-yard or 50-meter by 25-yard pool on the school grounds north parking lot or across 109 at the old driving range. The benefits: the pool can be used year-round by school and Rockwood Swim Club. It could host U.S. swimming competitions, thus bringing in revenue. Can host the Missouri State High School Swimming Association swim meet, currently held only at St. Peter's Recplex. It would be a better training facility. And what would you do with the current pool? You can convert it to a wrestling arena, which I've heard people wouldn't mind doing. What a 50-meter pool would do would make it the only one in St. Louis County outside of, the only other one would be Recplex. So it would be a great feather in the cap of Rockwood to actually put in a decent training facility for all of the Rockwood School District residents. And with that, that's all I have.
Talk about a 50-meter pool. Is that 50 meters wide?
50 meters long by 25 yards wide.
Okay. My understanding might not be right. I understood that there was an issue with a 25-meter
That
pool
is correct.
because it's not the standard length.
Well,
so-
right. You could, well, if you build a 50-meter pool, you could add a bulkhead to it, and now you divide it in half, and now you could have 2 sets of things going on at once. St. Peter's Recplex, during the state meet, they put the bulkhead in, and they could go through a lot more swimmers at once to go through all the preliminary rounds, and then the finals will just use one portion of that pool.
The idea would be to end up with 25 yards so that it's a standard
That
race.
is correct. Yes.
Okay.
That's what the bulkhead
Okay.
would do, would make 2 25-yard pools inside the 50-meter pool.
Okay. Yeah, this has come up before, and I know we're not generally responding, but this discussion happened about 3 or 4 years ago, and we were talking about the bond issues, and we had 2 of them that failed in a row. The pool location was going to be between the, where they put that black fencing up now, between the new gym and the building. It was going to go in that location. Bond issues didn't go through. The pool does function, and it's a matter of priorities of money. So my kids both went through Eureka. I certainly understand and agree with you. Not sure when that'll make the priority list again, but everybody, the pictures are here that came up, so everybody take a quick look at those and look through them. Does anybody have any questions?
I was going to respond under my comments,
Oh.
just to keep it,
It probably should have been done that way,
So-
so.
Can I just ask one clarifying question? I'm assuming one of your children are swimmers?
I've been a
at Eureka?
Rockwood School District resident for 6 years. I now have a freshman at Eureka, but
Okay.
I've always known it to be a problem because both Crestview Middle School and Eureka High School, as we all know, Crestview Middle School used to be Lafayette High School, and those 2 pools were built at the same time. Those are both 25-meter indoor pools with very little deck space. And so obviously Crestview Middle School doesn't need a pool, but they use that for swim lessons in Swim America and Swim Club. Yes, all my kids swim, so yes, I have a bias. But if you look at it, it's not just that. You also have a lot of talented swimmers outside of my own that either choose not to go to Eureka or not swim at all for the high school because there is no decent pool to be there. I mean, there's actually a student there now that has the Olympic aspirations of 2020 and will probably get it. And think about what kind of press that could be for Eureka swim team as well as the Eureka High School as well as Rockwood School District.
The reason why I asked that is because I was curious, at a typical swim meet, or within a season, how many times do you think it is that a kid would qualify for state by touching if there was a touch pad?
It could vary. I mean, there's really no no documented proof of how many kids could qualify at that meet. There are approximately 9 meets a year, or 9 meets a season, and that's both, that's just girls. There's also boys season that probably has about the same amount, of which half would be home, half are away. So that means they reduce their chance by 50% at their home pool to have a state cut time than if they were at someplace else.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Dunn, thank you for the comments. You said you've been there for 6 years?
Yes, sir.
The history goes way back past that, probably almost 25 years. And the reason, the reason Eureka has the shorter pool is because it's the oldest building. And Rockwood was wise when they built the other 3 new buildings, which are after Eureka, that they built the right size. The discussion came up 20 years ago about going across 109 and building on the east side, which used to be a golf range. And at that time, that was negated by the fact of the safety issue going across 109. And then it gets to the property on our property here. I think they do need one. In fact, I know they need one to stay competitive. And that's a consideration that will be taken care of, has been dealt with, or has been discussed, and somewhere down the road will be taken care of, I'm sure. It doesn't do you any good right now with someone in the 9th grade.
If I could add to your safety issues of 109, I too also believe that would be a safety issue. Edwardsville High School in Illinois has the swimming pool across the street from their main complex, and they actually have an underground pass to get to that building safely from.
You could use an underground, or you could
Or you
use
could
an
do an
overpass.
That's correct.
Yeah,
But
thank
they
you
ha-
for your
they-
concern.
They have a big complex there.
Yeah, thank you for your concern.
Questions for Mr.? Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for your time.
Next agenda item is superintendent and board comments, so I will turn that over to our superintendent, Dr. Knost.
Mr. Dunn, before you go out, I have superintendent comments now, so the nice thing for it to be set up like that is it'll just be a few minutes, just a couple things. I echo what some of the board members say, but I want to assure you that this has been on my mind from the day I walked in. It really comes down to how to get it done. We do have a plan. The only a few things I disagree with you on. One would be that our plan would really be to put a new pool right where it's at. And we've discussed that. We originally had an idea of where the flood was coming in, and we finally decided it doesn't make sense to dig a hole in the ground where water comes up. So there is a plan. It comes down to money. When you compound something like going across the street, an underpass, overpass, we're getting into millions and millions of dollars. There's no way to do that without a bond issue. Our last 2 bond issues, we had great support. A bond issue takes the entire 150 square mile community that includes Summit, Marquette, Lafayette, and we got up pretty high on our last bond issue at $95.6 million. Is that right, Chris? 95.5. And so to add, what were we factoring, Chris, on a pool? 20 million? Yeah, so to run it up that high and for it to be, we were already doing some major, a big chunk of our last bond issue was the Eureka area. The vast majority of our work in this last bond issue was the Eureka area, and we were concerned about district-wide support to pass that. So we just felt we couldn't take it up into that 110, 115 million for a bond issue. We know about the leaking. We have a plan and a time to get that done. The pool's used so much, we have to weigh shutting it down. We got water polo to contend with. So we're trying to do that in time. We can do it in about a week, right, Chris? Address the leaking of the... Yeah. Yeah. Trying to coordinate that, and we're trying to figure out what we do with the water pole in the meantime, and can we use another pool? Can we use Crestview where, we've got to talk about transportation. Bottom line is this, nobody here disagrees with you. I would love more than anything, I feel good about the things we've been able to get done in my years as superintendent. I'd love to say that I could promise you that I can figure out how to get that done and get that done. What I can promise you is that I won't stop thinking about it, and it's never off of our minds. We're trying to find a way that can happen, At some point in time in the future, it definitely will. We just don't have a time frame at this point in time. But I appreciate you providing the information and your support and your advocacy, and just know that there is a will. We got to find out the way. There you go. There you go. All right. Thank you, Mr. Dunn. The only other thing I had in my comments tonight, so I wanted to keep them slim since we have a long meeting on this last day of session, is I just wanted to share our holiday video that got a lot of good response because of the kids are just always fun to watch and interact with. So we'll just play that, less than a couple minutes worth, and then that'll be all I have. What time of year is it?
Christmas, winter and Christmas. December.
December, it's winter, it's Christmas. And some people have celebrate other things. Do you know what other holidays some people? Yeah.
Kwanzaa and Hanukkah.
Yes, those are other things that people celebrate. Is it the time of year where we share and we're nice to other people? Or are we sharing nice to other people all year round?
All year round. Happy birthday to me.
Okay.
I'm 103.
Okay. I'm half your age. Holiday
Christmas.
season with their family. Okay, are you sure I don't look like Santa Claus?
You do.
I do?
Yeah.
What makes me look like Santa Claus?
Because you have a beard.
Is it a good beard?
No. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh.
Tell me what your favorite song of this time of the year is. Your favorite song. Keep your hand up though.
Jingle bells.
We just sang that, didn't we?
Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh. Hey!
It's like the song that never ends. The whole world's gonna see this. All right. Now I gotta go back to learning.
Mr. Dunn, we also have a policy at Christmas time that if you come up to the microphone, you have to take at least 2 cookies with you tonight. That's policy.
Great. All right, any other board member have comments at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Dunn.
All right, let's move on to the consent agenda items. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on those items?
I do.
Okay.
I have some donations again this year, or tonight. Marquette Baseball Booster Club, $17,000 modifications to the facilities to improve the drainage of the field and prevent game cancellations. Angels in the outfield, monetary $1,500 to benefit the boys basketball program at Marquette. Donation from Pond Elementary PTO, $1,700, STEM education for students. And donation winner, the winter experience team, monetary $2,000, Powerade contest winner to Rockwood, on behalf of Rockwood Summit High School. Thanks to Dan Steinbrugge. The total donations this year are $425,000 throughout the whole year, and that's almost $50,000 more, I think, than last year. Thank you. Thank you to the Rockwood School District patrons.
Other comments on the consent agenda items? The motion is to approve those items. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. That carries. Thank you. Next one is negotiated contracts. I think Dr. Rebele is going to join us. I need a motion to approve the negotiated agreement between the Rockwood School District and the Rockwood Custodial Education Association. The agreement will be effective July 1st of 18 through June 30th of 22. We have a motion and a second. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Donna Richard and I are here tonight to present the agreement that we have tentatively agreed to. Donna is the president of the Rockwood Custodial Group, and it's her day off. She came in anyway, so it was very nice of her. So I do want to recognize a couple of our team members who were here and who were part of the hard work. Chris Friend, so thank you for his leadership in helping, and Paul Northington. So we have a 4-year agreement, and the process went very well, and we would like to ask you to approve it this evening.
4 years. Is that just what worked? I mean, it's nice that it's not going to
Yeah.
coincide with the teachers, because that's a big year, but anything in particular drove it to 4 years
No, I
instead of
think it
3?
was just a collaborative group, and I think there was a lot of problem solving, and it was better than 3 years, I guess.
No? Good. I'm in favor. Any other discussion or questions?
Just want to say with Donna being here, I think I've said this to the board before, but we can't thank our custodians enough in this district, and you just, I mean, we have great facilities workers all together, but you cannot have buildings that look the way we do, look the way our buildings look, without people taking care of them. It's just like our own homes. If you ignore them, and you know, in the traffic we have in our buildings. So all of our custodians are so kind to me, and they're hardworking, and I feel like we're blessed, and so I'm thrilled that this was a good process, and you know, all through, I'm not there at the table, but Katie and Paul are keeping me posted, and of course I get to work with Donna. I see Donna. She and I are the last people at central office every night, so but anyway, just my thanks and my appreciation for our custodians and the very, very hard and sometimes thankless work that they do.
Question? All right, the motion is to approve the negotiated agreement. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna.
Nice job.
Thanks, Donna.
Thank you for your hard work.
The next item is the curriculum for high school math electives, and I think Dr. Willett and Lisa Lingle is going to join us. I need a motion to postpone approval of the high school math electives course curriculum as presented until the January 18th school board meeting.
Move.
Have a motion and a second. Welcome.
So as you recall, in the last couple of years, we've tried to move as many of our curriculum to December as possible so that we can give teachers a semester to do training beforehand. And it also affords us some benefits in purchasing when we have large-scale adoptions. We tend to get better pricing from our companies when we're buying large amounts of textbooks. So tonight, we're going to be bringing 4 different sets of curriculum forward. The first one is the high school math electives, and this really is a concerted effort that we're trying to make math more relevant to our students, to help them see the connections to math in their real lives, and to improve the conceptual learning of math because it makes sense to them and they see where it applies. So Lisa's here to talk about 2 courses, statistics and math and careers.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm excited to present revisions to 2 of the high school math electives tonight. Our statistics and our math and careers courses are semester classes. Although there's little change to the content for both of the courses, what will be different is our students' experience. The writing team spent a lot of time exploring the latest educational research and shifts in instructional practices. Our goals for both and careers opportunity math connections outside of the classroom, collaborate with their class as a team, is technology basis to research, allow for personalization and student choice. Our semester statistics course will have 2 significant changes. The first is providing students with a project-based learning experience in which they will work in teams to conduct surveys, interpret and analyze data they've collected to make predictions and defend conclusions based on their results. The second change is to the prerequisite, which will allow students to take the course after geometry versus algebra 2. As you may be aware, the use of statistics is becoming more prevalent in our society. In fact, many colleges across the country are no longer requiring non-STEM colleagues to take college algebra, but rather identifying alternative entry-level mathematics courses, such as statistical reasoning, that are relevant to the student's career pathway. Thus, by changing the prerequisites, it's going to allow students to take that class or have more opportunity to take that course. The other course is Math and Careers. This course allows students to see and apply foundational mathematics as it relates to different careers. Currently, the prerequisite only allows students who are seniors and deficit in math credits to take the Math and Careers course. But by allowing students to access prior to their senior year, they will have the opportunity to strengthen their math skills and explore careers that they may have an interest in. The class will now offer 21 different career units from which students may choose. Cindy?
Lisa and Shelley, I as soon as I saw math, I said, I've got to read this, and I really did. And the two things, correct me if I'm wrong, the careers in math is for 9th through 12th graders.
We're going to offer it for 10th through 12th grade. There would be situations perhaps that 9th grade students could utilize that course, but we don't freshmen to sign.
It is an elective, which means it does not count towards a math credit.
Actually, it does count for a math credit. However, it's not recognized as a
Oh, right.
class, but it is a math credit.
Correct me on this one if I'm wrong, but each student will do 9 units of the 21 that were listed in there?
It will vary, but we anticipate somewhere between 7 to 10.
Do that as a group, is that right? They don't do it individually necessarily?
We are trying to change the culture of the class,
No.
as you may be aware. And we're trying to get to the point where we will have students actually assess skills test as well as an interest survey to find out careers or units that would pertain to them and allow them to fill those gaps, but also allow them to explore something they're interested in.
I
And so
looked at
ideally,
the-
we
yeah.
want to personalize that instruction for
I looked at the
students.
different units. I just love those. Those are not 2 + 2 is 4. I mean, those are
Exactly.
really thinking
They're
units.
rigorous.
I love those. And they 7 to 10 days per unit, is that right on the
Yes.
math? Okay, then the statistics, there are 4 units. They will complete all 4 of those?
Yes.
I love them too. Those are on the same line. Now, they're also group work, right?
Yes. And so students will actually create statistical questions
Yeah.
pertaining to something they might have an interest in, so that they can then collect the data and maybe hopefully make
I have one last question. I've known you for years, and so I'm going to ask you this question, see if you know the answer. If I would give you all the gifts on the 12 days of Christmas, how many gifts would I give you? You can think about that one.
Heard that the other
It's
day.
12 factorial.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
No, it's not 12 factorial.
Huh?
We're not 12
It's not
factorial.
12
No.
factorial. 1,
We match up 1 and 12, that's 13. 11 and 2, you have 6 of those, that's 78 gifts. Just want to throw it out to you. Thanks, Lisa. Couldn't pass that up.
Any other questions or comments on
Really trying to
the
prepare
math
for all the
curriculum?
questions. I know. Well, I don't know how I'm going to follow that up, but I'm going to try. So the statistics, who do you anticipate taking the statistics class, and is that going to take away from AP statistics? Not that that's a big deal, but are you going to be able to have both those classes?
Actually, it's a semester course.
Mm-hmm.
So our goal when we were talking about this was to advertise it for all students, because we do think it's important for all students to have that experience. By allowing students to take it after geometry, that they wouldn't have to necessarily, if they struggle with mathematics and struggle in Algebra 2, they could have that course. They could take that course. They could also take the Math and Careers to get their 3 credits. But we also felt giving them it might
Would be, what grade levels would it,
well, it's after geometry.
okay. You have to have taken,
All developed the modules, or did those come from
For the Math and Careers.
either one of them? I mean, those,
The Math and Careers came from a resource called Win Math,
okay.
but the statistics course we developed through
Yes.
just our staff teachers.
Congratulate the people that did that.
And
I know we're math nerds here, but I just have to say that, having these two classes, every opportunity you can give kids to find something in math that they can latch onto is so important. Because, as you know, I've taught college level, and when I just gave my college algebra exam the other day, and I said, list 2 things you learn in this class that you will take with you when you go out into the real world. It was not functions. It was not graphing and sloping, much to my dismay. It was that we did a project for them to build a house and list everything they had to learn about what it would take to build a house. So my point is that these sorts of things are what kids, then they walk out of your class saying what? Hey, that wasn't such a bad class. And I was doing math in the meantime. So I think, and they remember, yeah. So this,
Reason not to.
yeah, I agree. So this is really good.
Thank you very
Questions or
much.
comments? All right, the motion on the floor is to postpone approval until the January 18th meeting. All those in favor, please say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed, say no. That passes. Thank you very much. The next one is the curriculum for the high school and metal process courses, and I think Bob's going to join us. There he is. I need a motion to postpone approval of the middle school technology and high school wood and metal processes courses curriculum as presented until the January 18th board meeting.
Move.
A motion and a second. Welcome, Bob.
Bob has 2 sets of curriculum here, and the first one that we're going to look at is that middle school technology. This is really an effort to give our kids more exploratory options at the middle school. That's something that we're really trying to focus on, as well as taking those exploratory classes and making a natural progression for them to dig deeper in high school if they want to follow that pathway after they've explored it. So he's going to talk a little bit about those first, and then we'll get into the high school.
All right, good evening. I'm going to hope my voice lasts the rest of the tonight, so it's been a little shaky all day. So we're going to start with our middle school technology. Maybe. There we go. So there were several different influences. You can see those on there, but one of the biggest influences really revolved around those opportunities we talked about and giving students opportunities to really go deeper and also explore. And so what you're going to see is some added depth and some added exploration and a lot of course flexibility, because anything in the technology world, when we come rewrite this in 6 years, could look extremely different, and we want some course flexibility to be able to adapt on. What we've done is now currently at the middle school we have 3 technology courses that you see on the left-hand side there, and what we're actually proposing is actually changing that to 5. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through what those are and why we made those changes. So the first one is our 6th grade course. It was called Gateway Technology prior. We are changing it to a course called STEM Explorations. It is a quarter course, so it is part of that exploratory wheel of getting those 6th graders just to be able to experience, in this case, a little bit of STEM. So what we've done is we've taken some content from the other courses that we are going to offer at the middle school level for technology, and we've built those into one kind of introductory course, with the design process being huge, because the design process is something we will actually carry through all of our courses. So then the changes come when you get to 7th grade. So currently we offer in 7th grade a class, it's a semester course. Part of it is 3D modeling, part of it is robotics. And the issue we run into is we don't have enough time for either of them, and so we really cram a lot into it. So our decision was to actually split those. So in 7th grade, we are keeping our design and modeling portion of that course, but now we have twice the time. What that's going to allow us to do is really dive into our Project Lead the Way curriculum completely and really stack some other things on top of that. One of the things I'm most proud of is the way our teachers have latched on to this idea of giving students some choice in projects. So we actually have planned a 5 to 6 week capstone project that will put all the 3D modeling skills that students have to use to solve a problem that they identify. So that's something I'm very excited to see. We just have more time, and we feel like that's going to be more beneficial for our students than cramming through to get through all the content. But at the same time, maybe, there we go. We also realized through our CTE evaluation, one of the recommendations was we have nothing in computer science at the middle school level, and we identified that as a big need. So we are actually going to offer a second course that is strictly a computer science course. It is a semester course. This is brand new. We will be utilizing the Computer Science Teacher Association, CSTA standards. we're going to be using a curriculum from code.org. It's called CS Discoveries. It also provides us a free platform to use, and it integrates in with all of our systems that we currently have. So students would actually be able to work on this on a Chromebook. They'd be able to work on it at home. They can work on it in the labs we already have. And so this is all about giving students those real-world design skills. So we'll go through an app building section. We will go through possibly a web development section. We're going to go through a gaming section. And again, we want this to be very project-based. And I'm very excited that we're actually going to offer something like this so students don't have to wait till high school to actually take a computer science course. And then we get to 8th grade, so we've moved the automation and robotics that was part of 7th grade. We've actually moved that to 8th grade. What this is going to allow us to do is actually use all of the Project Lead the Way curriculum for this and give us the ability to go a whole lot deeper. We don't get through probably half of what we could do right now, and we want to do a capstone at the end. We're designing that capstone project right now. One of the projects Project Lead the Way gives you is a factory. You actually build a working factory model. We've also talked about having our own little small robotics competition, so it's something that we're going to explore, and we can change that project up from year to year as things go on. So for next year only, what we are wanting to do is take that same 7th grade computer science course and offer it for 1 year only to the 8th grade. As we got through the curriculum writing process, computer science was brand new for our middle school technology teachers. We were very comfortable with what we created for 7th grade. We did not have clarity on where we wanted to go with that 8th grade course. And so we're actually spending time now, and we will over the summer and into the fall, developing that 8th grade course. But we did not want to rob those 8th graders of a chance to go into computer science and get that experience. And so for 1 year only, we would repeat that same course. So I think when we look at all these together, these common design elements, these were things when we started the curriculum writing process. We actually started with what do we want this curriculum to be all about, and this was really the list we came up with. I'm very proud. I never had 6 teachers who wanted to write curriculum so much in their lives. They were super excited. They always were ready to get started. It made my job really easy because I just kind of guided the way, and they really took direction with this. So, are there any questions about the middle school?
So next year, 7th and 8th will take the same course.
Yes,
Okay, so it'll be exact same course,
Same
but you're affording the 8th graders the opportunity.
Yes.
Gotcha. Very good.
Some of this designed, Bob, to make utilization of the Chromebooks, because Chromebooks can play a big part in this, is that right?
Yeah, the stuff we're looking at for computer science can definitely be used with the Chromebooks. Some of the things we're doing, our 3D modeling most likely cannot because we use a higher end software that requires a desktop PC or a laptop, and some of the robotics is the same way. This allow the 6th grade would be Chromebook friendly, and the computer science courses would definitely be Chromebook friendly.
Have to make any modifications to any of the rooms in the middle schools to accommodate any of this?
No, our current rooms already are in a lab setting, so we wouldn't need to make any modifications to offer a computer science course.
All the middle schools, the technology, all of this.
I was concerned you're going to have to build a lab or a metal shop, but you don't have metals there. That's for the high school. That's the next part.
The
Okay.
high school.
Are we staffed too currently for all this, or?
So right now, we kind of said we were in agreement that we needed to offer these experiences, and so we said we would work, with under whatever staffing model we needed to. We're prepared to, as we know, like right now, if I'm a teacher and I teach technology, if I'm teaching 7th grade, I know that instead of teaching over the course of a year 4 robotics courses, in this case I do 2 and 2 computer science, 2 of the other technology course. That's something that we're going to have to work through. But we didn't want to be limited by that. We felt this was a need that was identified, and it was also a parent request many times at conferences. My teachers tell me people are asking when can they do. Definitely need to make a change.
Thank you.
Now I'll move on to the high school here. So for high school, we are only looking at what's called our woods and metal processes courses. We are not adding anything new to these courses. This is I would call more of an update. It is not near as much of a change as what we just saw at the middle school level. the things I would tell you that we wanted to make sure we did was, one, the infusion of more creativity and innovation, especially with new technology. All of our high schools now have a laser engraver, and so we're looking at how could we use that technology to enhance some of the existing projects that students do, especially when we get into more of the Woods 2 course, that is the full year course, so we can add some more creativity. We also have schools, and we're working to get every school a what's called a plasma cutter. So it's actually the ability to cut metal to build in some of those artistic elements. We wanted to make sure that we build a curriculum, though, that would work at all of our high schools. We know there are facilities differences when you look at our shops across all 4 high schools. So we know that's the case. We wanted to build a curriculum that was flexible enough to work at all of them, but knowing that certain schools are going to have more space, more facilities than others. And we also, we kind of borrowed this idea from another curricular area. Every course is set up the exact same way. We basically narrowed it down to 3 things: the plan, build, finish. Every course, we're using the same skills. We're just using either different materials or different tools. And so that was something we wanted to have continuity across all of them. So in our Woods 1 course, it is a semester course. It is truly introductory, and you can kind of see those are the areas that we are going to discuss and go through. And this is actually those same safety tools and materials, measuring, drawing, and sketching. That's consistent across all of our courses here for these 3. So when you get to Woods 2, again, it's a full year course. You're building upon what happened in Wood Processes 1, and really we're allowing students to take more control over the projects that they're doing. So students are designing their projects, they are drawing them out, they are completing them, they get lots of choice. So if they want to tackle one humongous project or several smaller ones, they have the freedom to do that. And then when we get to our metals processes, again, you're going to see it's going to look from a curriculum standpoint identical to what we do in the Woods 1. We just said, you know what, the materials and the tools are changing. And as we went and, we're revising these courses, one of the other big pieces we said was we need to add a bigger career component to it. So students can see as they're doing this what career options are available. And as we do more with career pathways, we think that is going to definitely help out. So
When, in the Woods 1 and the Metals 1, will there be hands-on with wood and metal?
they're physically creating multiple different
Okay.
projects throughout the entire time.
What's our policy on providing them the materials? Do we provide the materials for something that's an assignment, such as the wood, but if they build something else, they pay for it, or how's that?
Currently, our schools actually they actually charge students almost like a course fee or a nominal fee. I know when you get to Woods 2, when you're getting into the large projects, students actually, that's part of the project is to, you know what, you need to actually figure out a cost on this, what's the right wood to use. So yes, there is a student cost that's incurred with that.
How is the enrollment in the Woods and the Metals programs? Is it increasing, steady, decreasing, or what?
I'd say it's been pretty steady in my 3 years here. I know that in particular when I came into this position, I know at Eureka healthy program, which is good to see because that kind of hands-on learning is really beneficial, I think, for all students.
You too, thank you.
Tell you that the table in our kitchen that the computer sits on was built by my son in that class, so, and it's still there. Any other questions on these? All right. Well, thank you very much. The motion on the table is to postpone the approval of the curriculum until the next board meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That passes. Thank you. And I think Megan Meyer is going to join us. The next one is theater arts courses. I need a motion to postpone approval of the theater arts courses curriculum as presented until the January 18th, 2018 board meeting.
Moved.
A motion and a second. Welcome.
Fine arts. Megan's going to talk a little bit about theater arts. We've made some pretty big changes in this program to really put more student voice and choice in it as well, having the kids really control the process and really looking at those national art standards. So she's going to walk through that and talk a little bit about how the pathway has changed.
Great, thank you. So I want to go over just a few of our influences in writing. As Dr. Willett said, the 2014 National Art Standards have been a major influence in our work. We did an external program evaluation with Dr. C.J. Maples, who's a theater education professor at Missouri State University. And we also just looked at innovative practices that are being discussed throughout Rockwood and looked for connections to the theater arts program. So the National Arts Standards, I have brought a couple of other curriculum areas in the past years that have been written to those, and so they are around 4 common artistic processes of creating, performing, responding, and connecting. And I'll just mention also that Missouri has writing teams working right now for fine arts to rewrite our state standards, and they're also looking at the go through a few major shifts in our curriculum. The first was similar to what you heard in Bob's presentation. We wanted to continue to support that philosophy of exploring in middle school, but also to support students who had identified a specific interest in theater and advancing their skills. So what you'll see is in 6th and 7th grade, we're still offering theater arts courses that do not have any kind of a prerequisite. In 8th grade, there are 2 options for students. One is for a student who's new to theater arts coursework, and the second theater arts studio would be for a student who had taken theater arts workshop in 7th grade to continue to advance their skills. We also made some changes in the course map for high school. Theater Arts 1 used to be the semester-long theater class that all students had to take before they could take any other theater arts class. We received some feedback through the process that we had students who were particularly interested in technical theater work who were perceiving Theater Arts 1 as a barrier to their interests because their interests lie more on the technical side than on the acting side. So we went ahead and changed that to offering 2 introductory theater classes, one being acting and the other Tech Theater 1. Now in both of those courses, in Tech Theater 1, there are still some acting standards, and in acting there are still some tech theater standards because we feel like it's important for our students to have a good foundation, but it allows our students to specialize in one or the other earlier on. Students have to take a level 2 course, it could be either acting or tech theater, before they would move on to studio directing. So our second shift was an increased emphasis on student skill development, particularly in the area of technical theater. So you know when you go to see one of our Rockwood plays or musicals or many things going on besides just what the actors and actresses are doing on the stage. We have costumes that are being designed and built. We have sets that are being constructed. There's sound and lighting that's happening from the booth. And our shift is that we want to make sure that our students are very involved in all of those processes and that our students are the ones who are really building those skills under the mentorship of teachers and other adults. Thinking of our mindset when we go and see a production in Rockwood, we believe that our students are very capable of producing the highest quality of work in all ways. But instead of just looking at what was the quality of what I saw, taking the time to look through that program and see what did the students contribute, where were students in leadership positions, look back in the booth, see who's running the lights, who's running the sound, and think about the critical thinking and problem solving that happens in a live production and the transfer of skills that our students are developing in the theater program. Woodworking skills, sewing, audio-visual skills that can transfer to many different careers. Next shift goes along with the last one, and that is to increase exposure to various theater arts careers. Perhaps the careers that everyone thinks of first are an actor, an actress, or a director, but the entertainment industry is broad, as is the theater industry, and so we want to make sure that we are exposing our students to the many different career options that they could pursue should they want to pursue a career in theater. Along with that, one of the recommendations of our program evaluator was to update some of the equipment in our theaters so that it was more of the industry standard. So we have purchased digital light boards for all of our high school theaters. Our teachers are getting training on those in January, and they'll be installed, and our hope is to update our sound boards soon also. Shift is to opportunities other subjects. I wanted to share with you an exciting project that our theater teachers have put together called Little Thinkers Theater. They've invited our elementary students to submit writing samples, and our middle school and high school theater programs are choosing young children's stories and developing them into scenes that will all be performed together on a night in February, and we'd certainly love to have you all there.
That's great.
We also just wanted to share that the STEM work is very important in the arts also, and we like to refer to it as STEAM, but thinking of all of the many ways that the arts integrate with STEM, when you're building a set, constructing, you're using those geometry skills, math skills, their woodworking skills, communication. So there are just so many different ways that those skills that are being developed in other courses can be applied in an authentic way in the theater program. Our next shift was to use live theater as a platform for exploring complex social and cultural issues. Our theater teachers had the opportunity about a year and a half ago. We went down to the Repertory Theater and met with the cast of a production that was going on there. And we really delved into what is appropriate to perform in middle schools and high schools, and how do we handle some of those more complex issues. So we're committed to not shying away from issues like race and poverty and politics, those things that we know our students are talking about. We think the theater can actually be a great place for them to have those discussions and delve into things in depth, and to allow our community to do that as well. Lafayette High School did a production called Falling this fall that was about a family with a child who had autism, and Crestview did Seed Folks. It takes place in an impoverished neighborhood and kind of gives the background of different cultures and how they intersect in that community. So those are our shifts.
Again, I read this one with the same anxiety of the other two. I really enjoyed reading this. Help me a little bit. I'm not middle school oriented. When did theater arts come into the middle school? Has it been there for many years, or have I just missed it?
It would definitely predate me. I know that it's been around for some time. Certainly.
In Rockwood, I think quite a long time. I think quite a long time. I think even back in our building level days, I think that it was in the middle schools. I don't know the exact curriculum that the variety of classes, but I think that was unique. I definitely don't think that was a consistent thing throughout schools in the country, and definitely even in the state.
I think that's really great because, speaking from a high school level, that gets some kids who are really interested in it in the middle school. They can go to the high school and have some talents that they wouldn't have if you didn't have that in the middle school. Yeah, these are all great courses again and things. The one last question, the last one, number 5, where you get into the social. Do you anticipate, or have you anticipated anything being presented that would be so controversial that it could cause a problem?
What we've discussed is how you handle difficult topics with care. Like, for example, making sure to provide ratings or provide information in advance of a production, so parents would know if it was appropriate to bring younger children, and doing pre-show lectures, post-show dialogues, so that there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity not just to experience the work, but also to have a conversation around its meaning.
Thank you.
And I'm really excited about the Little Thinkers Theater. I think that is such an opportunity to bring the language arts into the program and make a connection between our elementary and our middle and high schools, and to see the development of what their writing can become. You're really laying some seed work for those young kids. So please keep us informed of that date. I'm very excited about that.
I echo Tabor's comments. I was going to say the same thing. That's very exciting to make that connection with the elementary to the middle to the high. It's a great idea. Great innovation.
I will give Natasha Fisher at high school. Of our theater.
we also need to congratulate Shelley. You've done a marvelous job on this, getting this stuff together. Sure, I'm glad we stole you from Francis Howell.
Make it easy.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Questions or comments? All right, the motion is to postpone approval of the theater arts course curriculum until the January 18th board meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That passes. Thank you both very much.
Take a cookie.
Yeah, cookies.
As Shelley's walking away, and Megan and the others have left already, but I want to echo what Dr. Kinder said. Shelley has just done yeoman's work, and her leadership is so respected, and she gets the most out of our curriculum department, and she's just a great member of my team, and I appreciate that. And definitely Megan, you, Lisa, Bob, we just have we're so blessed with a phenomenal curriculum staff. So thank you all for your hard work. And Shelley, thanks for your leadership.
Long overdue. So, very nice. The next item is the FEMA Safe Room Project. I think Paul's going to join us. I need a motion to approve the application process to be considered as a recipient of the Federal Emergency FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, Tornado Safe Room Grant.
Thank you. Good evening
Thank
and
you.
happy holidays.
That's the motion I'll be looking for.
Move.
We have a motion in a second. Now, Paul, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we have the opportunity to submit a FEMA grant application for the Wildwood multipurpose building that was part of the 2017 bond issue project. The proposed grant would be a grant through the state agency, but would work through FEMA, and it's a 75-25 grant in that the district would be reimbursed 75% of the cost. The application at this point looks like it'll be for a little over 1.6 million, of which the 75% reimbursement would be a little over 1.2 million. We would work with Toth and Associates. We sent out an RFP, and they were selected to be the grant writer and work with us through the grant process. They have extensive experience in the state of Missouri. They worked with Joplin on several projects, Jackson, other schools throughout the state. So they have a depth of knowledge in putting these applications together. The other thing to note, the fact that we put an application together doesn't obligate us for anything. If we're awarded the grant, then we would proceed accordingly. If for whatever reason we're not awarded the grant, then there's no fiscal note tagged to it. This would allow us to expand the Wildwood multipurpose into a safe shelter. And the grant process, the application is due April 1st. There's about a 2-month review process. We should get notification in June, July of 2018, and that fits really well with the project schedule. This project is scheduled for design in winter of 2018, and construction is scheduled for the spring and summer of 2019, so the timing works really well. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
This room would be utilized for other purposes when not in utilization for the need of our safe room, correct?
It'll primarily be a multi-purpose room, but in the event of adverse weather, it would serve as a tornado shelter room that would house 830. That's the design. So it would incorporate all the students, staff, and any other visitors or community members that would be in the building at that time.
Just had the opportunity to tour the new Dressel Elementary over at Lindbergh, and they have 2 safe rooms over there, and it's really a very safe opportunity for us to put into place in our schools.
It's a nice opportunity.
Just a reminder, so everybody's really clear. Paul said this, but I want to zoom in on it. That this is the multi-purpose room is already an existing project from the 2017. Yeah, so this just allows us to. We already have dedicated funds for it to get this grant and then convert that. Which we also know that through legislation, eventually it's going to be that any time construction takes place and a new school is built, it'll be required. We're putting the same in our designs for Eureka Elementary School. So just so I don't want the community to think that we're pursuing something that we're not already doing. We're already creating a multi-purpose space, but we want to see if FEMA can allow us to make that a safe room.
How many of these are granted a year?
Excuse me?
How many of these grants given out a year?
It's based on dollars that are assigned through FEMA and the requests that are brought forth within the state. So I would assume it would vary depending on the scope of grants submitted and the dollar size of those grants. And at this point, they really don't know the dollar commitment that's been assigned to Missouri. So it's really tough to say how many grants will be awarded.
That's a federal program though, right?
It exactly is.
I know House Springs was granted one. My hometown built one. I don't think Sykeston did, but Advance did, I think.
There's been several done across the state. A lot of them, again, as I mentioned, Joplin,
Yeah.
they had their
Well, I'm
event.
sure Joplin.
And they've done several, but there's others all throughout the state.
What would the rating be?
Excuse me?
What would the rating be as far as the ability to withstand a tornado?
It would stand a 250-mile-an-hour tornado, so it's the big one.
Basically, the safe rooms, the way the architects describe them is that you're, in the heaviest of tornadoes, your building would be flat, but your safe room would stand.
Basically, going to be designed out of thick concrete, including the roof, so it's a concrete. There are, but this would be the highest rating.
I think it's the highest, an E5. Same thing, E, F, whatever it takes.
That'd be something that Chris would get involved with a lot?
Oh, exactly, yeah. I always need Chris's help.
Okay. That's great.
Any other questions? The motion is to approve the application for this grant. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That passes, thank you. I think the next one is just informational. Dan's going to join us, and we're going to talk about the first draft of the proposed budget for the 2018-19 school year.
Just a few quick words. This has been a process where it's been a good team effort working with other cabinet members and district administrators, and it's been a very good process to work with each of them to put together a preliminary budget that meets student and staff needs but also maintains fiscal responsibility. Dan Steinberger has worked really hard assembling all this data together, so I'm going to turn it over to him to kind of give you an executive summary of what we're looking at for 18-19.
Thank you, and good evening. Our process has followed a process similar to we had in the last couple of years, where it starts in September with budget requests coming in on the operating side. It's reviewed by the administrative leadership team. We'll work over the next couple months updating any kind of budget estimates, keep the board informed of those. We'll come back in May with an update, and in June we'll ask for adoption of the budget. Our conversation tonight is primarily going to focus on the revenue side. I'm going to jump a couple slides ahead just to show a quick chart that 97% of our operating funds come from local and state revenue, and out of the local piece, 84% is from our assessed taxes. So a couple of significant revenue sources will be the local tax rate as well as the state formula. Go back. And when we set the tax rate in September of 17, which impacts the 17-18 school year, we were in a reassessment year, and we realized 8% increase in our assessed valuation. So we had significant growth in the area. For the 2018 tax rate, which will come back next September for the 18-19 budget, it is a non-reassessment year. So any kind of changes in assessed valuation is really just driven by new construction as well as personal property. So we factored in an estimate for new construction and personal property. Also, we've ran through some calculations of the recoupment process, which relates to those settlements of assessed valuation claims with the State Taxing Commission. And we are budgeting for a 4-cent increase in the operating tax rate, which is equal to about $2.7 million. So we're able to generate some revenue on a non-reassessment year. State funding is driven primarily from enrollment. So before we look at the calculation for, I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble with, must be the cookies distracting me. I can't put the clicker here. So just an update on the enrollment numbers. Each September we take official count. That provides our base for our projections. September 17 count actually reversed the trend of declining enrollment. So since the 2010-11 school year, we've averaged a decrease of about 270 kids per year decrease in enrollment. So we only picked up 8 kids for this year, but when you compare it to the average, it's a pretty significant change. We are going to see that going forward, where we're going to have an increase in residential growth. So we take those September numbers, we add in a couple of factors. One is looking at the survival rate, and when we're referring to the survival rate, we're more looking at grade level progression. So for example, in September of 17, we had 1,204 kindergartners. When we took our enrollment in September of 17, that number grew for first graders, 1,278. So we picked up 74 first graders. We take those factors, and we actually saw that across all grade levels at the elementary level. So that drives some of our projections. Obviously, with some of the residential developments, we've been working closely with our developers. They've been providing good information about build-out percentages, occupancy rates. So we kind of take all those factors and helps drive some of our projection numbers. So we have identified some schools where we're seeing significant growth. We've actually set up meetings with the building level administrators to meet with them in January. Purpose of that is really just communication, letting them know what's driving some of their projection numbers. Also to get feedback from them, because at the building level they may be aware of circumstances that might help us with our projections, and really just to keep an open dialogue with them as we kind of monitor their enrollment numbers. The summary here shows that we are projecting increase in residential enrollment through the 21-22 school year, and that's really based off the information we know as of now. That information could change at any time if new developments come through or other factors when we get into next year. So the longer we go out, the factors could significantly change those. So overall, we'll have an increase in enrollment over the next few years, which impacts our state funding. Just to recap, our basic formula is based off of the highest WADA of the current or the previous 2 school years. With us experiencing an increase in enrollment, we are anticipating that our 18-19 enrollment will drive our revenue for 18-19. So the small incremental increase really allows us to maintain our state formula. The last couple of years, each year with declining enrollment, we've actually been losing state formula because of the change in the WADA, but we're actually able to maintain that revenue for next year. We will be monitoring legislative action over the next couple of months. When we adopted the 18 budget, we did include a state accuracy target of 6241, which was basically fully funding the formula. Based off of some information from DESE, we've actually brought our current year number for the SAT down to 6220, and right now that's what we're projecting next year to be at based off of current information from DESE. But we're going to monitor that over the next couple of months, and that might come back with any kind of updates relating to that. Sales tax, that's also driven off of enrollment, but that just takes the prior year enrollment information. So with 17-18 having an increase in enrollment, that impacts our 18-19, and we're able to pick up about $400,000 in revenue, including an increase in our amount per WADA. And that increase is about 2%, and it's also a factor of our local economy as it increases. Overall, other revenue assumptions are remaining flat for county, federal revenue as of right now. We are monitoring some of the action at the federal level as it relates to federal funding, but as of right now, we're keeping federal funds flat. This just summarizes our revenue sources, where our adopted budget. Our current projection shows we're picking up $700,000 in revenue, and then with the net changes for our preliminary 2018-19 forecasting, we're looking at an increase of about $2 million in revenue. These are just a couple slides. Expenditures, as I've kind of started out with, All of our expenditures are based off of requests that come in from the operating departments in September. They're reviewed. There was a request that the budgets come in at the same level as the 17-18 school year, so they either come in flat or under that budget. Our school budgets are based off of an existing per pupil formula, so we'll take projected enrollment times that per pupil amount, and that provides the schools their allocation. And then we also went through a series of meetings in November with the administrative leadership team, reviewing the budget target and preparing the budget target for tonight. And this just shows our operating budget recap. We started the year with a balanced budget. Through some additional revenue sources, we were able to pick up a little bit to fund balance. So we are projecting an increase in fund balance of about $379,000 for the 17-18 school year, and taking into consideration all of our assumptions for 18-19, we do have a balanced budget and maintain our 22% target for fund balance levels. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Offer a quick observation that I don't know if it's district-wide or if it's any statistical value to it, but in neighborhoods like here in Eureka and the Legends, there's 800 homes in there, and they're all 3, 4, and 5 bedroom homes that people were not able to sell over recent years. In the last 6 months, a huge number of them have turned over. You may see a regreening that boosts those numbers upward a little bit, but we'll wait and see. Yeah.
We actually noticed that at a couple of the elementary schools where we have future development going in, but right now there's no development, but they had the same thing where they picked up a significant amount of kids, and it was mentioned that that was because of the turnover in the residential
So people
areas.
don't buy 4-bedroom houses if they don't have kids. So.
Right.
And, can I just ask which schools you were talking about that you've seen that you're forecasting this growth?
Obviously, the Eureka area.
Uh-huh.
We're addressing a couple of those with Geggy, work that's
Right.
going on at Geggy, the new elementary school. Green Pines, Ellisville Elementary, Wild Horse, and Pond. So in Babbler. So all down 109, you see a couple developments going through. There's also been some discussion at Wildwood about some other areas of land that we're kind of keeping an eye on as well. So.
What about the ones on Manchester across from Deerbergs? Manchester, that new development that's coming in.
See that? It didn't.
Not that big.
It wasn't that big of a development. So. I
Big
think about
houses, but
30,
not that many.
Yeah.
Big houses.
So they're big houses, but from a kid standpoint, it didn't drive our numbers.
Where would
too
they
much
go?
for the
Where
schools.
would they go to? They go to Green Pines?
We're talking east of Clarkson.
No, north of.
The Deerbergs on 100.
Yeah.
Those would be Green Pine. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And those are just developing, so we are factoring those in the next couple years.
When you make your projections each year, and then you look at it at the end of the year, how close are you really getting?
It varies from year to year. I would say that there are times where we're lucky to come in close. There's a lot of assumptions that go into them. For this year, 17-18 school year, we under projected. So when the actual numbers came in, we were actually expecting our first bump in enrollment to be the 18-19 school year, but it actually came in 17-18, so we were under.
Bump was how many kids about? 50, 100, 150?
I believe we were under 150.
Okay.
District-wide.
That's good.
The important thing to note with the enrollment piece is, and Dan alluded to this, I'm just going to put an exclamation mark on it because I said it a lot during our bond issue efforts last spring. Our bond issue really addressed everything we know, and I kept stating that, and people would say, they'd say, oh, well, you're not factoring in that subdivision down by Mirasol. I can never remember. Windswept Farm? No, Windswept. Yeah. Yes, we are. We're factoring that in. What we aren't factoring in is what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know, and there's potential for additional growth. There's a few, one in particular in Wildwood that we did not know about that they're talking to the Wildwood City Council about. So, but I think we're in good shape now. We've got a good beat on it. The only other thing I wanted to mention, I was talking with Matt back and forth about the agenda, and I said, I was running down the pieces in a text, and I said, well, when it comes to budget, it really, our message is simple. We have a balanced budget. I committed to that when when I was hired as superintendent, and we're staying true to that, and our process gets a little easier every year because we've learned as a team how to do that. It's never easy, but we work well as a team, and we get it done. We're conservative in how we figure this budget, and that's the appropriate way to do that because there's always the possibility of changes. And I do just want to highlight that it is an interesting year. Dan talks about legislation. There's still a lot of dialogue taking place about the tax reform and how that ultimately could impact Missouri. And ultimately, when there are impacts to the budget in Missouri, there are usually direct impacts to education. And there are some scenarios, it's way too early to state one way or the other, but there are some scenarios that could be concerning where we would maybe, that's why this is a preliminary budget in December, where we would maybe have to go back to the drawing board and rethink some things. Haven't felt that in recent years, but I just feel the need to say that now here in December with a preliminary budget, but that there could be some, you know, either legislative things or some analyses or some fallout that would impact education in Missouri, where we would be going back to the drawing board. I hope not, and we do have, again, developed in a conservative way, so there's some room for flexibility with some level of changes in the assumptions, but we just need to keep an eye on that.
All right, on the federal level, we get 8% of our budgets from federal. So even if it does change, it won't have that much effect. The state one could, though. If they do some lowering the taxes, et cetera, that could really affect us.
From the federal standpoint, and so
Oh, yeah.
have a reduced production, and those services also couldn't be.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate the update. Also appreciate that you maintain the 22%, which is the 18% to avoid the tax anticipation notes and the 4% contingency. So important stuff. All right, Chris, I think you're next. Let's see. We're going to do these two. These next items have to do with bond issue purchases over $150,000. By practice, we've done those individually, and we have two of them, so we'll have two separate motions. First one is I need a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 from United Construction Enterprises Company of St. Louis Incorporated and for the Administrative Annex A window replacement. Moved and seconded. Chris?
All right, yes, this agenda item is for actually the full exterior window replacement in the building we're currently at, the admin annex. We estimate that this is the second generation of windows that is currently in this facility. We've had some issues with water infiltration, corrosion with sills and frames, so it's time to replace the window systems on the perimeter of this building.
Help with efficiency as well?
Absolutely, absolutely.
My question, go ahead.
Okay. Any other questions on the window replacement item? It's a bond issue purchase over $150,000. All right, all those.
I'm sorry. Just as a point of reference, United Construction is actually the contractor that completed the STEM Lab, first phase STEM Lab project at Marquette High School. So they're a company we're familiar with and we're comfortable with.
We already allocated $399,000, and this just an additional $25,000, or is this the whole thing? Because it says.
No, the total amount is $424,200.
Right.
That includes an allowance of $25,000 for
Okay, so
unforeseen conditions.
we hadn't already approved the $399.
Correct, and this is funded through bond issue 2015, the cycle window replacement budget that we had.
And there'll probably be some unforeseen things.
Absolutely, in a
Expect to
building
get-
of this age, yes.
Yeah, building this old and they're already leaking, you'll find something.
Yep.
All right, the motion is to approve this bond issue item for windows in this building. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That passes. We have one more. Need a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 from Morenet, University of Columbia, for licensing the internet. It is for the internet content filtering system. Yeah, we have a motion and a second. Thank you.
Good evening. This purchase is for our content filter, and we use that to ensure that our students are accessing age-appropriate material as well as curricular material. We also receive E-rate funding for the district, and because of that, we are required to have an internet content filter. So this will meet all those needs, but the main reason that we are requesting it is because we are unable to increase our internet bandwidth until we have new hardware. So this will allow us to do that in January. And we are currently at our limit with what we have, so we have to have this new equipment to expand.
You explain, the winning bid is 288.
Yes.
But
Okay.
PC was 460 and Morenet was also 460.
So that Morenet, the second Morenet bid is an error. The actual bid was $400,634.67.
That's the same company. That's the same company that got it.
Yes, they provided us two different options for purchasing. One was an additional discount if we pay all up front. So it's about $111,800 almost difference by paying up front as opposed to paying annual installments for 3 years. So we opted for the one-time payment.
The software is something you can do under a bond issue purchase?
Yes, we verified that. It's also hardware. There is a hardware component with it. There's going to be 8 appliances to support not only our current environment, but the environment. We've been growing at about 40% per year in our bandwidth utilization for the last couple years. So we're trying to plan strategically so we're not having to do this again in six months to a year.
Think that growth's going to slow down anytime soon?
No, actually, we're projecting this will take us up to 30 gigs of bandwidth.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, the motion is to approve the bond issue purchase for the Morenet software and hardware. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That passes. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. All right, the next item is a proposed agenda for the January 18th meeting. We did cancel the January 5th meeting because everybody would have just been back from break and wouldn't have time to get things ready, which means that this meeting had a pretty long agenda, and so will the 18th. Anybody up till the week before, till the week of, I guess, around the 10th or so? If you want to add anything to the agenda or think something else that you'd like a presentation on, you have about a week ahead of time to do it.
The order had proposed 3 things. Was one of them in January?
No, I don't think we put it in January intentionally.
No,
They're
it's
spread out.
It's the February 1st
Okay.
meeting is the first one.
The next item then is the legislative platform. Need a motion to approve the Rockwood School District legislative platform as presented. Have a motion and a second. Eric, you want to talk about that first?
Yes, will not take long. I sent this to you in advance, and assuming it was easy to navigate, I asked for any input in advance, didn't get any. I still want to cover a couple things. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you. Obviously, there are 4 priority positions, and to back up a little bit, we haven't done this in the last couple of years. We've just really adopted a lot of what Ed Plus has proposed, and we've been having legislative gatherings, as many of you have participated in. We're partnering with Parkway and Pattonville. Last year we hosted in this room. This year it'll be at Pattonville. If that date, you should all have that date already, but we'll send that out in advance to make sure that you are aware of it. I think it comes up in late January, early February. February 2nd. Okay, well, you all know.
February 2nd.
But this year, as we all know, and I'm very involved at Jeff City advocating for public education, and we know there's been some things that cross over a little bit. We try not to be, you are elected officials, but we're not, as educators, claiming a side of the aisle and doing those kinds of things. Sometimes politics eases its way into the work we do. Flexibility for innovation. I want to point out one thing there. First of all, it's neat that we've really been pushing as far as our mission, innovation, and we truly are leaders, as you can see. A lot of people followed in our footsteps, and there's a lot of talk about innovation throughout the state and even in the country in education. But I think in the St. Louis area, we've been some leaders. The very first bullet you're going to hear more about in January, probably coupled with Glenn's portion of reporting to the community on data. But we support goals to implement an adaptable and comprehensive state assessment tool that accurately evaluates continuous growth and life readiness of student learning. I wanted to make sure that you know I've been very involved from the ground up with an assessment consortium that is developing in the state, and I definitely, I mean, we're part of it by default, but I'm going to propose in the future that we in essence buy into this consortium. The idea is that we've been pushing for an alternative to map testing grades 3 through 8. We don't think it's authentic. We don't think that it does anything to help kids thrive in the world. And this takes help on the federal level because it has to come in the form of a waiver. There's been a test that we've done in a Pattonville school, and we knew it would be denied at the federal level. It was, but they told us what we needed to do. And the way we get them to listen in the state is we have a lot of school districts with a lot of students interested, and right now we have over 50 school districts interested in the consortium. And for this year, the consortium will really take place and be put in place in July, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in January, and based on student size, each school district involved will put in some seed money to get it in place. It'll be a very small amount. It'll equate to about $5,000 for this first year. In the future years, our involvement will be capped at $15,000 annually, and we think that throughout this next run of the MSIP cycle, which of course is a little bit of a question mark right now with the new state board, but that maybe this could be in place by 2023. So we're really excited about it. You'll hear more, but that's why we have that bullet in there. Jump down to the bottom, meeting our financial responsibilities. I think we all think as public school educators, I'm trying to speak on behalf, but again, I didn't have any comments back from you all, and this is school districts across the state and across the country. We all have concerns with what happened with the Commissioner of Education and really the process that happened. I'm sorry, I told you down to the last bullet, I meant the second one, I apologize. Support local control and professional educators. That very last bullet, support an independent state board of education and Missouri Department of Elementary Secondary Education that is autonomous of political influence. It's really just a statement that we feel that it's set up that way, it's spelled out that way in the Missouri Constitution. We just support that continues to be apolitical. That's what that statement is. At the bottom, meeting our financial responsibilities. Of course, we want funding protected for public education, and you hear a lot of words about things being fully funded. We're looking at the state adequacy target and how that moves around and the potential for that to be fully funded. But one thing that's not mentioned a lot lately is our transportation is still heavily underfunded in the state of Missouri. So we're still pushing for true full funding of public schools, and that's not to mention they really changed the movement of the adequacy target and the caps and all that, because just a couple of years ago, technically we were over $600 million underfunded. So we're supporting that. Serving students with critical needs, that goes without saying. We definitely want to preserve those funding mechanisms that help us do those things that are so important to all kids thriving of all levels of need. So nothing, this is more overarching stuff, but I think with the politics that have infiltrated, I thought it was important to officially have an adopted platform. It's very similar to Ed Plus, very similar to Parkway, very similar to Pattonville, and we'll have this with us when we meet with our representatives on February the 2nd.
I think this statement, along with the consortium, if you can continue to get these districts in there, that's going to be a powerful tool. unless I'm wrong, I don't think we've had pockets of that, as you said, but we've never had a big statewide or anything like that, and I think I'm in favor of that. We should have done that a long time ago.
You have to remember, people often think of Missouri and they think of Kansas City, St. Louis, a little bit about Springfield. Do you know what the average size school district is in the state of Missouri? Student-wise?
535 kids.
Yeah, I think it's a little bigger than that. It's like it's around 550. But that's interesting. They're not school district.
Yes.
That's, that kind of paints. So St. Louis, in trying to do these kinds of things in the past, a lot of times does not get buy-in because outstate Missouri doesn't want to be driven by St. Louis. But this is a problem that everybody can identify with. We've had several meetings. We had a conference call the other day. And, when you're doing those conference calls, if you've ever been in them, every time you hear a beep, that's somebody else that came on the line. And through the whole conference call, it just continued to just beep, 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 the people coming on. So it's powerful. We had support of DESE. And to give everyone in mind, they say, well, you get rid of the map, what do you do? We already do interim formative assessments. We do STAR testing for those grade levels. It doesn't mean it would be STAR. It could possibly be something that would be supplanted with STAR because, again, feds aren't going to allow us to do something different in every district. But it's something we already do. It's something we already pay for. And if we can combine our efforts statewide, that's really powerful. So we look to have support from DESE going forward, and we think it will be a powerful thing. And good for kids. It'll inform instruction, not be some, pardon me, but, ignorant process that causes kids to have anxiety and get sick and tells our teachers nothing about what's really going on in their classes, like a map
No
test.
clue where DESE's going to go.
No.
I think we know where it's going.
We shall see. Of course. Of course.
As a district.
Right. Of course.
I would just add that specific item aside, putting down your legislative platform in writing and approved by the board does carry some more weight with the legislators in Jefferson City. So though we haven't done this in a couple of years, it's probably just as important or more important this year that we actually put it on paper and give Dr. Knos that tool. So that's why we're doing it. All right, any other discussion on that? The motion is to approve the legislative platform. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That carries as well. Thank you. We have another item that we just added. I think we all of us got an email earlier about last week or so, and I think this is the gist of it. Can we zoom in on those three in the middle if we can? This is the Board of Education Awards, Outstanding Board of Education Award, and it's done by the Missouri School Board Association. We've been invited to apply for one of these before. In the past, we haven't done it. We were very concerned about some things that were going on in the district and making sure the focus stayed on the kids. It seems like we're in a different environment these days, and maybe it's time for the district to put a little, thanks, if you will, for the board and everything that they've done. So here's one way to earn an award that's an accreditation by a state organization. It's not just us saying how wonderful we are, but you have to apply for it. There's 6 different areas that you can do that in, and we would have to choose one of those, and those are the ones listed up there. Teaching and learning assessment, well, you can read them there. I don't need to read them to you. But those are the ones that are there. Climate, culture, and organizational efficacy, the physical, environmental resources, human and organizational capital, school finance resources, governance, leadership, and accountability. If we're going to apply for it, we have to choose one of those 6. So we would have to put that together. This is not due to the Missouri School Board Association until March 1st. So we've got a little time. If we want to take a look at this, I would suggest that we get 2 or 3 board members to kind of head up a group to kind of look at which ones are the best fit, which ones would be of the most use to the district, and then kind of consolidate an application for it from that point. So I guess I'd open that up to how does everybody feel about, first of all, applying for it. In the past, we have decided not to, but this might be a good time to do it.
I was one that had mentioned that I think we should apply for it. Because I think it represents our district, not just the board, but the
Right.
work that we do in the name of the district and our students. And it gives them honor that we're moving forward in their name.
Sure does, Tammy. And this is a highly functioning board. deserving of recognition and award, even though I know that Tammy just eloquently said what she said, and that's exactly correct. There's more to it than just that recognition, but it validates the work and the governance in a school district that is a well-oiled machine, and that doesn't happen without oversight and governance. So it's appropriate, and it validates much of the work you do. So I highly encourage your interest. I think it's.
Let me take a look at the application. Thinks about it and what we need.
I could talk to areas that we to do that.
That's probably a good way to kick it off, if you don't mind doing a little bit of the legwork and find out what's involved in each one of those 6 areas, and maybe bring back a recommendation as to, of those 6, which would be most appropriate for our board. And I think that you're reading through those and go, well, I think almost any of those would be something we could make a case for. But right now, I think, looking at the trade-offs between different ones, and, finance is always an issue, and I think the public's probably fairly, that might have a bigger impact publicly, but certainly let's look at them all. So if you don't mind doing that, if anybody else wants to be a part of that, or, yep. Okay.
About in any way, I just feel like that governance, leadership, and accountability, I'm not like picking one right away, but that one just pops right out. I did.
And I think
That one
actually
just
this
pops
one
out to me because that is our role, the governance. I think we've exhibited the leadership, and we certainly try to hold you accountable, and vice versa. So that one just kind of.
Imagine the application, and I have not gone to the application process, but I imagine they're going to ask you for specific examples in the area that you're applying for. So I guess part of the conversation or the evaluation would be, in which of those areas can we make the strongest case? So, all right, if you two don't mind taking a look at that, maybe at the next board meeting, we can talk a little more about how to move forward. The next board meeting's at the end of January, so we've still got 6 weeks after that to fill out the application. So at that point, we can get a smaller group together to, whichever area we decide to go in that direction, we can have a smaller group together, put the application together. So.
Kathy and Alex would definitely help with this process,
Right.
getting the application process.
One of the last items, the future agenda presentations and events to attend in the next week or two. There's probably not a whole lot of those. But getting into the next semester, that'll start January 3rd, 2nd? 3rd. There will be lots of items. Of course, you're going to get into the closing period for applications to the board, and then there's lots of events that go on between then and the first week of April, which is the election date. So as we get into the next board meeting, we'll probably have some more agenda items to talk about. At this point, we're going to have a nice quiet week or two here where everybody can enjoy their families. That's the end of our agenda for this evening. Does any board member have anything else you'd like to bring up tonight?
Happy holidays.
In that case, I will
Holidays.
adjourn the meeting and wish you a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Very efficient.
Yeah.
Still got a little bit of.
No, I had visions of 10 o'clock earlier today. Yesterday, going, oh my God, that's 20 pages long. We were all, when you sent that message, it was the timing, we were just having the same conversation, talking ourselves in, no, we can